Arbitration projections are in for the Washington Nationals, and right now the big question is surrounding Luis Garcia Jr., and I'm here to tell you why. Do not be surprised if he's not a National.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And yes, I am your host, Ryan Clary, your Nationals insider here, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. And later on in today's program, we'll have a discussion surrounding these pre-arbitration numbers. And these are just projections as for now. But honestly, they make a pretty big difference for the Washington Nationals. And Paul Taboni is going to have some big decisions to make surrounding some key Nationals vets. So we'll have some discussions surrounding the other players later on in this show today. But I'm going to tell you why that you should not be surprised if the Washington Nationals decide to cut bait with second baseman Luis Garcia Jr. But today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So we get started today discussing Luis Garcia Jr. And this has been a very polarizing National for years now. And I'm going to tell you why you should not be surprised if they do decide to cut bait with Luis Garcia Jr. So right now, his pre-arbitration projection right now is around $7 million. Luis Garcia Jr. has been this weird up and down player for the Nationals for really over the last few seasons here. You've seen him have some really good moments. You've seen him regress. You've seen him taking a step up. Then you'll also see him take a step back. You don't really know how to project and how to describe Luis Garcia Jr. He's just one of those guys where it's like, yeah, I could kind of see a future with him here, but I could also really not see a future with him. He is the just definition of someone who is simply on the fence of being a good major league player, but also being a bad one. It's a weird player. But Luis Garcia Jr. and where he is today, we just have to go with the sample sizes that he has given us. And right now, Luis Garcia Jr. has proven that this is a very inconsistent player. That is going to be held against him in these negotiations. And quite frankly, if I'm Luis Garcia Jr. today, I would be taking probably less than $7 million. Now, obviously, him and his agency, they're going to go to the Nationals and they're going to try to get every penny of that $7 million. And before we really kind of jump into what I would do with it, this is probably a relatively smart move for Garcia. He should want more money. Of course he should. At times, he has played like he is worth $7 million. But then other times, he has played as if he probably doesn't really deserve to be a starting second baseman in Major League Baseball. So as far as where I would go with him, I think that I would try to cut a deal with Garcia, whether it be $6 million, whether it be $7 million. I certainly would not go above $7 million, though. I can tell you that right now. But I would be willing to try to cut a deal with him. And here's why. I would try to trade Luis Garcia Jr. I would do anything in my power right now today to try and trade him off. And maybe the Nationals had that in their plans. Maybe they believe, you know what, we're going to give him the money and then we're going to trade him. I think that is a very feasible possibility. Now, maybe the Nationals also have long-term plans for him. You saw Luis Garcia Jr. playing at first base this season. Maybe you see Luis Garcia Jr. move over to third. You don't know what the Nationals will do. But I can tell you this much. I would be able to pay him the $7 million and then find a trade partner. I am not all too interested in having Garcia be my long-term second baseman. I have not seen enough from him during his stint here with the Nationals. You go back to 2020 when he was first called up 19 years old, 20 years old, whatever he was. And he was kind of a pretty good prospect for the Nationals. But he ultimately, right now, has not been able to prove that he's good enough and has the capability to be a good defender over at second. He has not proven to me that he is consistent enough to really have that offensive production that you probably could have over at second base. And right now, with my offseason plans for the Nationals, just a little sneak peek, I think CJ Abrams is your second baseman for the Nats. Luis Garcia Jr. and where he ranks among second basemen, last year in 2024, he was a legit top 5 bat over at second base as far as qualified players go. But this season, he took a step back. Let's just be honest with it. As far as Major League Baseball goes, he finished 11th in batting average as far as second baseman goes, a 701 OPS, which was 12th in all of baseball. He had 16 home runs, which finished 8th in all of baseball, had a 289 OBP. Think about that for a second. A 289 OBP. Dalen Lyle had a higher batting average than what he had in on-base percentage. That finished 18th, last amongst qualified second basemen. That right there is a massive issue. Not getting on base in today's game at a 30% clip, that is bad. Not getting on base at a 32% clip or a 33% clip is bad. Let alone being dead last amongst qualified second basemen as far as his on-base percentage goes. This guy is not someone who draws walks. Again, looking at his walk rate this year, 27 walks in his 139 games played. That is not good enough. The issues with Garcia have been glaring over the years. You have seen him chase pitches outside the zone where you're just like, what are you doing? He has one of the worst chase rates in all of baseball at this point. We know what Garcia is. There is nothing to really correct at this point. And if Taboni believes that he's like, listen, we could actually try and fix Garcia. He puts the ball in play. He doesn't strike out. And we think he has a little bit extra at second base that he has not provided. Maybe. But right now, the proof is in the pudding. This guy has been in the major leagues for 4 or 5 seasons at this point. We kind of know what he brings to the table. And looking at where he stands today, I'm not convinced that the Nationals are going to be like, you know what? Sign us up for another few years of Luis Garcia Jr. I don't think that makes any sense. And for where the Nationals really could be down the road, maybe you move Abrams over to second base. That would probably be a pretty feasible option for this team. So as far as the arbitration number goes, again, he is projected right now, according to MLB Trade Rumors, right around $7 million for the 2026 season. You can make a case either way. If the Nationals decide, you know what, we're going to move off from him, we're going to non-tender him, he's going to be a free agent just like Kyle Finnegan last year. Good. If the Nationals decide to sign him and they're like, hey, we're going to try to work with him over at second base, he has the tools to be a good second baseman, maybe not defensively, but also he does offensively. We have seen it at times. Maybe he can put together a more consistent season. Okay, you can convince me of that. Or you pick up that, you pay him the $7 million or the $6.5 million, whatever it's going to take, and then you say, we're going to trade him. We're going to try to find something in return for him, whether it be a starting pitcher, whether it be a second baseman or a shortstop to kind of bridge that gap for where the Nationals could be in a few years with Eli Willits. Who knows at this point? But whatever the Nationals do decide to do, you can convince me whichever way that that would be the right decision. But as far as what I want to see, I kind of want to see new blood over at second base. So if the Nationals do decide to move off Luis Garcia Jr., I think that would be the right decision. And for where this team is today, it probably makes most sense. Because the one thing that we do know about the Nationals is that there will be a lot of change this offseason. You've seen it off the field, and you will certainly see it on the field as well. Who will that start with? Luis Garcia Jr. might be option number one in that department. He might be the first National that you have seen for the last few seasons kick the ball around over at second base, and he might be the first one gone. So don't be surprised if the Nationals do decide to cut loose with Luis Garcia Jr. But next, I do want to go through some other projections for some of these Nationals, because the Nationals have a lot of different guys right now, like Josiah Gray, Mason Thompson, Mackenzie Gore, Riley Adams, CJ Abrams, Jake Irvin, Cade Cavalli. There's one guy in that list where I look at his number and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to take that deal. I'll tell you who that is after this. Most people cannot name all their financial accounts or even what they are worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or even investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that is why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or even on your phone. And Monarch is built for people with busy lives. And if you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, and you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. And you can identify that you aren't saving as much as what you thought. Monarch helps you notice an inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. Again, use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And if you haven't done so already, again, look up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your pods. So we're going through some of these pre-ARB projections right now. And the one guy that I think might surprise you, but I would not be surprised personally at all with this, is if the Nationals decide to move off of Jake Irvin. I would not be surprised at this point in time. Pre-ARB is one of those tricky things where it's like, you never really know what the number is going to look like. But right now with Jake Irvin, his number is at $3.3 million. And if you look at Jake Irvin this year, he may have been the most disappointing Washington National to date. He had a brutal 2025 season. And this is someone that we thought could have been an all-star. Last year in 2024, there was a serious case for him to being a big-time all-star for the Nationals. And we thought this season he would take that step up in year number 3. But unfortunately, he did not. So with the Nationals and where they are today, Jake Irvin had a 5.7 ERA in 33 starts. He led Major League Baseball in earned runs given up. He had led Major League Baseball in home runs with 38 home runs in 33 starts. That is an insane number to give up. He was nearly giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings in that stretch. His walk rate was up to 3 compared to 2.5 from last season. His strikeout rate was down nearly 1 strikeout per 9 innings. And then his hit rate was up by nearly 2 hits per 9 innings. Jake Irvin had a awful season for the Nationals, and you could make a case as to why he is not worth the $3.3 million. You could make the case for Jake Irvin not even being in the starting rotation entering 2026. Listen, you could, again, look at this number, $3.3 million for having a 5.7 ERA, someone whose fastball velocity has dipped by a couple miles per hour compared to where he made his debut a few seasons ago to where he was to end this season. The fastball velo drops as starts go on. His stuff isn't as great anymore. The movement is not there. And really, he just is not the effective pitcher that we thought he could be. I think Jake Irvin is probably going to be the move that would surprise people the most. But really, you should not be surprised. He has had some really good starts here with the Nationals. You have seen some really good times with Jake Irvin here. And again, going back to it, this guy was a 4th-round pick out of 2018 out of Oklahoma for the Nationals. This is a homebred kind of guy here. But I'm not willing to really kind of go through this again. I'm not willing to say, yeah, this guy is worth $3.3 million. Let's go out there and have him start every 5 days. That's not worth it to me. And when you do cut off a guy like Jake Irvin, I go back to Kyle Finnegan last year when he was due like what, $10 million or whatever it was. And the Nationals said, you're not worth that in arbitration. We're going to let you go to free agency, see what you can get. And if you can't get what you think you deserve, come back here. You'll be our closer. That's exactly what happened. I think the Nationals could do something very similar with Jake Irvin. Because let's be honest real quick. There's not going to be a huge market for Jake Irvin. And I like him. I really do like Jake Irvin. I think he's a great guy, awesome clubhouse guy to be with, a good kind of leader in that situation. So maybe the Nationals see enough value in that, and they're like, you know what? We'll pay you $2.8 million, have you back here. You'll be battling for a rotation spot entering spring training. Maybe that's the plan for them. But I also think they should probably look at some other options at this point in time. You could make a case, people might cover their ears here. I'm sorry. But you could make a case for Mitchell Parker being in the rotation over Jake Irvin. Truly. I've seen enough with Mitchell Parker where I'm like, I don't know what he's going to be. But I think that right now with him and Jake Irvin, is it really that different? Not really. He's cheaper, number one. And number two, he's got less miles on his arm. So maybe that's a case that the Nationals decide to make here. But I would look at this. What can you do better? And where does that better come from? Is it Andrew Alvarez taking his spot? That could certainly be in the equation here. Is it someone like a free agent starting pitcher the Nationals bring in this offseason? Maybe. Is it Josiah Gray ramping up in the winter months here? And then, of course, having him take that rotation spot from Jake Irvin? I think that's a possibility. But right now with Jake Irvin, I'm not just absolutely gunning to have him on this team at this point. And again, I like Irvin. He is a great guy. He's a clubhouse leader. But with where the Nationals are today, he's not getting any younger. This is someone who is 28 years old. He's going to be 29 entering opening day in 2026. This is kind of the peak of his career. You're going to have to figure out what you have with Irvin moving forward. And what I think the Nationals have, I think they have someone who was a good starting pitcher and who was a good project, but right now it's not working out. And for what the price tag is, $3.3 million, I'm not willing to give up that money for him. I think you can find better prices out there for really the production that you give up. Jake Irvin had one of the worst seasons as far as starting pitchers go in 2025. He was the Patrick Corbin of this team. He certainly ate up innings, but what does that do for us right now? Not much. So with the Nationals in mind, do not be surprised if Jake Irvin is no longer a Washington National. It truly would not surprise me. Again, looking at the numbers and what he is worth, I think it could be a real discussion to be had with Jake Irvin and surrounding some other Washington Nationals. But thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, if you haven't done so already, look up Locked On Nationals over on YouTube. Use that app. You hit that subscriber button. And if you like daily Nationals content, I am your guy for the rest of this offseason. Monday through Friday, you will not miss a day here on Locked On Nationals. So stay tuned. We will have you covered all offseason long for what Taboni and this new era, what could be coming down the pipe. We'll see what the Washington Nationals have in store for us. But next, let's talk about some other pre-arb numbers from the Nationals and some projections. I think the others are pretty self-explanatory, but there are a couple that you could see some surprising moves with. And if I'm the Nationals right now, I'd certainly be looking at these numbers moving forward. So we'll talk about the rest of them after this. And let me tell you about our friends at Gametime. There is nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes all the fun out of it. And that is why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price that you pay. And the app is just made super simple. I could see the exact view from my seat before buying, and fees are always included. Know your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. And then, of course, I love their zone deals too. You can pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster and cheaper than a lot of these other sites, and it's the only way that I bought tickets throughout the year. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, if you have not done so, look up Locked On Nationals over on YouTube. Again, look up Locked On Nationals. So now we get into a little discussion surrounding some other Washington Nationals and some pre-ARB projections for the Washington Nationals. But before we jump into that, I do want people to hear this out. This is not the owners are cheap thing and they're not willing to pay them this X amount of money. It's not about that. This is about what a player is worth. And really, this is kind of what the smart teams do. You can make the case for them being like, hey, like, we're going to bring in this guy and have him paid $7 million compared to $6 million. And that's no big deal. It is a big deal because you do have these roster spots. And a lot of these guys, you're going to have to open up a 40-man roster spot for some of them, like a Yohandy Morales type or another prospect that you want to keep from a Rule 5 MLB draft. Like, you have got some options here for the Nationals, and making moves like these are kind of what separates teams. And if you don't see a future with some of these Nationals, then it does make the most sense to move off them. So I just want to kind of get that out of the way for now, because I know a lot of you are saying, what's the difference between $9 million and $7.8 million? It does make a difference with roster spots that we can get into at a later date. But there are some other projections for the Nationals, so we'll go through them here. The number one kind of other notable one outside of Luis Garcia and Jake Irvin is CJ Abrams, who is due $5.6 million this season. Honestly, that's a pretty good deal for someone who could easily be your franchise shortstop. I think that's a no-brainer. The Nationals obviously will not kick him to the curb. They're going to pick that up, and hopefully they're going to be trying to extend CJ Abrams. I would certainly be in that market today trying to get CJ Abrams an extension done. So that's a no-brainer. You pick that up. Another no-brainer for the Nationals, Cade Cavalli, $1.3 million. He showed plenty for what the Nationals needed. He's going to be in the rotation. He's going to be a solid arm for 2026 and beyond. So that $1.3 million number, no problem. Get that job done. And then we get into some interesting ones, to say the least. Josiah Gray, $1.35 million. The former All-Star in 2023. They're going to pick that thing up. They're going to pay him the $1.35 million. He'll be in the rotation at some point early on in 2026. I'm pretty confident in that. Mackenzie Gore, that $4.7 million, the All-Star. You're going to pick that up, no problem asked. Then we get into Mason Thompson, a guy that the Nationals simply cannot quit. He's gone. $1 million this season. No, thank you. We're going to take our chances. We have given Mason Thompson so many opportunities over the years. And unfortunately for him, injuries have really derailed for what was once a very promising career for the Nationals. I always thought Thompson back in like 2022 and in 2023, this guy is going to be your future closer. What a dummy I am. He has not worked out here for the Nats. He has not proven to be a closer. And quite frankly, he has not proven to be a capable arm in a major league bullpen at this point. So I'm moving off of Mason Thompson. I think that's a pretty easy decision. Riley Adams, $1.5 million. Sign me up for that today. I'm perfectly fine bringing Riley Adams back, someone who has some power, who has played at times okay defensively. He's certainly better than Keibert Ruiz, really on both sides of the plate at this point. So $1.5 million for a backup catcher, going to compete for that catcher 2 job. Okay with that right now. Sign me up for Riley Adams. But really the big one, in my opinion, is going back to that Mason Thompson thing. I cannot get over that the Nationals have not been able to figure out a way to develop Mason Thompson at this point. And looking at what he is owed, $1 million, that is probably going to be the easiest decision this offseason for the Nationals to do. You non-tender Mason Thompson. He's not going to be coming back here most likely. And, it's unfortunate because, again, this is someone who was a promising prospect, who has a good slider, who you have seen him pump 99 to 100 consistently before, but he just simply has not been able to command his pitches at all. And when you're a bullpen piece, as we saw with the Dodgers and the Phillies over the course of this series, the bullpens matter, and who you bring in matters. He just has not been able to figure it out for this team, unfortunately. But thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, if you haven't done so already, look up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts. Again, look up Locked On Nationals. But I will catch you guys on the flip side. Enjoy some playoff baseball coming back tonight. You've got the Cubs and the Brewers. The Brewers are up 2-0. The Dodgers are up 2-0 on those poor Philadelphia Phillies. Another blown opportunity last night with Bryson Stott and the Philadelphia Phillies. Just a tough way to lose. You hate to see it. But until then, I will catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.